Hello everyone, welcome back to the second part of the lecture on the chapter The Flower for ICSE Class 9. So we were discussing in the last lecture about the types of carpel based on the fusion. So based on the fusion, carpel is of two types. Number one is apocarpus, in which the carpels are free from each other and you can actually distinguish the number of carpels. Example, in lotus, here you can see that they are all the stigmas popping out. So you can actually count the number of stigma, and that means that many number of carpels are present here. On the other hand, we have syncarpus carpel, in which the carpels are fused together. Example, in case of mustard. So you cannot distinctly count the number of carpels because they have been fused to form a single carpel. Okay. Now let's discuss about complete and incomplete flower. We have done this discussion before in the junior class also, but let's recollect whatever we have studied there. So in case of complete flower or perfect flower as it is called, it contains all the four major holes, that are the androecium, gynoecium, calyx, corolla, all the four major holes. But in case of incomplete or imperfect flower, either one or more than one hole will be absent. For example, either there will be no gynoecium or no androecium, or gynoecium or the calyx will be absent, or the androecium and the corolla will be absent. So it will lack either one or more than one hole. That is why it is not complete or it is not perfect. The examples are given here. For complete flowers, we have hibiscus, rose and pea. For incomplete, we have pumpkin, watermelon, etc. Essential and non-essential parts we have already done. Essential parts include the reproductive parts, which directly take part in the process of reproduction. That means the androecium and the gynoecium. Whereas non-essential parts include the calyx and the corolla, which actually do not take part in reproduction process directly. Now coming to perianth. Perianth is a structure which is very common in monocot flowers like lily and tulip. Monocot flowers means the flowers which produce the seeds that have got only one seed leaf. Now in case of perianth, the individual parts, they are known as the tepals, which is nothing but the fusion of sepal and petal. Now this perianth can either be like sepal, that means green in color and protective in function, or like the petals, that means colorful and attracting the pollinators. So based on that, we have two types of perianth. Number one, petaloid perianth. As I said, they represent more like the petals, and they are brightly colored, they are scented also, and they attract the pollinators, as you can see in case of lily. Then in case of cephaloid perianth, they resemble more the sepals. That means they are green in color and they are leaf-like. So they will be protective in function, and since they are green, so that means definitely they contain the chlorophyll pigment and will participate in the photosynthesis process. So these are the two images of petaloid tepals and cephaloid tepals respectively. Here you can see the petaloid tepals are brightly colored but without any sepals because they are fused together. And here also you cannot distinguish which one is the sepal and which one is the petal. But the green structures are present which represent the cephaloid tepals, and they are protective as well as conducting the photosynthesis process. Now coming to the next unique feature of flowers which are found, that is the bract. What are bracts? They are leaf-like structures which are found at the base of a flower or in the flower stalk. So they are more like the scale leaves, which are somewhat found in the modification of the leaves. We have seen the scale leaves. So the bracts look like the scale leaves, and they are not part of the main whole. That means the four major holes. So they are not a part of that. They are outside the four major holes. So this green, the bracts can either be green in color or can be colorful. So you can see the deep green portion, they are the sepals. This light green portions on the outer side of the sepals or the whole of calyx, this is the bract. This is the bract, and also in the stalk. So both at the base of the flower and also in the flower stalk we can find the bract. Now, what are the characteristics often found outside the calyx that we have seen in the previous image? Often resemble leaves. As I told you, they resemble just like the scale leaves. Sometimes they are brightly colored to attract the pollinators, and in some plants they are also small and inconspicuous, means they are not so visible. So they can either be brightly colored and very much conspicuous so as to attract pollinators, or they can be very small and inconspicuous depending upon their function and the species of the flower that they are present in. And the functions include protection in the developing flower, extra protection outside the whole of calyx, and they attract pollinators when brightly colored, and they can also replace petals. That means whenever they are brightly colored, so obviously they replace petals. So in place of petals we have got bracts. Now, based on the bracts, that means the presence and the absence of bracts, the flowers can be bracteate flower, that means where the bracts are present, example China rose or hibiscus and bougainvillea, or the flower in which bracts are absent, example mustard flower and datura flower. So here you can see the bright magenta color, that is not the petal, it is the bract. And here the datura flower, here no bract can be seen. Now coming to the next structure which are usually found in flowers, the nectaries. What are nectaries? They are the glandular structures, or in simple words, the glands that will produce the nectar. It is a sugary liquid which acts as the food resource for the pollinators like the bees, butterflies and the birds. So the pollinators who will come in search of the food resource, that in order to obtain nectar from the nectaries, and in this process they will pollinate the flowers. They will carry the pollens from another flower, and in order whenever they go to collect the nectaries, the pollens will fall off on the stigma, and if the competent pollen falls on the stigma, the subsequent processes of fertilization will take place. Now, position of the nectaries. Where can we find the nectaries usually located? Nectaries can be usually positioned at the base of the ovary, base of the petals or near the stamens. Now they can be either inside the flower or outside. When they are outside the flower, they are known as extrafloral nectaries. So let's try to understand them one by one. So floral nectaries means when they are present inside the flower, means inside the flower at the base of the ovary, base of the petals or near the stamens, and they are the floral nectaries. And extrafloral means outside the flower, but at what position? At the the stalk position of the flower, and they may attract ants. Ants are also in the search of the nectar for their food. So therefore, in case of plants such as the cotton, ants will come to collect the nectar from the extrafloral nectaries which are present there, and in doing so they actually protect the plant, because whenever you go to pluck the flower or something, obviously the red ants can bite you. So here you can see this is the ovary, and the nectar is present at the base of the ovary. This is an example of the floral nectary which is present inside the flower. And here this is the example of extrafloral nectary which is then utilized, from which you can see the red ant is obtaining the nectar, and it can be found at the stalk of the flower, outside the flower obviously. So this is an example of extrafloral nectary. Now, what is the function of nectaries? The primary function is obviously to attract pollinators. That means by helping them in giving their food. So this is a symbiotic relationship in which both the organisms are benefited. The flower is benefited because they are pollinated. On the other hand, the organism is benefited because they get their food from the flower. It also promotes cross-pollination by encouraging animal visits, because the animals, that means this ants, the bees, the butterflies, they actually visit so many flowers. So the pollens from different flower will come from the different plant and then will get deposited in the flower. So there definitely it is an example of xenogamy or cross pollination, and it will bring about genetic variation in the flower. And nectar is a reward for pollinators for which they come. Now, sexuality in flowers. So the flower which contains both the male and the female part, means both androecium and gynoecium are present in the same flower, that type of flower is known as bisexual flower. So bi means two. So two sexes are present, the male and the female. They are also known as hermaphrodite flowers. This is very important. The other name of bisexual flower is hermaphrodite flower. On the other hand, unisexual means either the androecium or the gynoecium will be present, but not together, because uni means one and sex means either the male part or the female part. Now, staminate flowers. So unisexual flowers which contain the male reproductive system or the stamens only, that type of flower is known as staminate flower, and in that type obviously no carpel or no female part will be present. So the examples are maize, cucumber, in which you can find the separate staminate flower in which only the male part will be present. Obviously, this is the example of the mustard, in which you can see all these are the stamens and no carpel is to be found. On the other hand, the unisexual flower that contains only the carpels or the female plants, we call the pistillate flower, and here no stamens will be found. The examples again include the maize and the cucumber, which obviously if the male flower is there, the female flower has to be present for the pollination and the subsequent fertilization to occur. So this is the example of pistillate flower. Here all the parts, you can see they are the group of the pistils or the carpels. It is a group of, and no stamen is to be found here. Coming to another category, that is the neuter flower. So it will neither contain the stamens or the carpels. You can say that it is neuter flower or sterile flower, because if no male and female part is present, then there is no organ to produce the gamete, and if gametes are not produced, then obviously there will be no sexual reproduction in case of the flowers. So, and then why these flowers are produced? They can be for the reproductive or the decorative purpose or for the protective purpose, but they are not for the reproductive purpose. Example, the ray florets of sunflower, which do not contain either the stamen or the pistil. So here it is the example of the neuter flower. The functions of the flower, we know the main function is reproduction, and also flower helps in seed and fruit formation, because after fertilization, that means in post fertilization event, the ovary gets converted into the fruit and the ovules get converted into seeds. Now, classification of plants based on sexuality. First of all, monoecious plants. Mono means one and oecious means house. So, one house for both sexes. Both sexes means male and female. So monoecious plants house both the staminate and pistillate flowers in the same plant body. So that is the example of monoecious plants. One house for both the sexes. On the other hand, you can see these are the examples of monoecious plants. On the other hand, dioecious, di means two and again oecious means house. So two houses for separately for two sexes, right? So the staminate flowers will be borne by one plant, and the pistillate flowers will be borne by another plant. So two plant bodies or two houses for the two different sexes. Examples include papaya and the date palm, where you can see that in one plant you will find only the staminate flowers, and on another plant only the pistillate flowers. So such type of plants are called dioecious plants. Now, why should we understand the sexuality in case of plants? Why is it so important? Firstly, it helps to identify the plant reproductive systems. So, if we don't know that which one is the male flower, which one is the female flower, so definitely it will actually ignorance will lead to poor agricultural practices. If whenever we are raising any plant or we want to get the fruits properly, we need to know about the sexuality so that we can plant the seeds accordingly, and understanding the pollination and fertilization mechanism. So this is also essential, which because if we keep the male plants only, then there will be no fruit formation very soon until and unless there is cross pollination between the plants from far away. But if we plant the plant the seeds like alternatively, like male plant then female again male, or a row of male plant followed by a row of female plant, so definitely it will lead to pollination and more quickly, and it will give us fruits in a short duration because pollination will be accomplished. Therefore, it is very much necessary that pollination and fertilization to be successful, we need to understand the sexuality. And last but not the least, we need to improve crop yield through controlled pollination. So, how the crop production will be improved if we plant the we know the sexuality of plants and put them in the subsequent rows accordingly. So I'll be back just a minute. Now, coming to the next topic, that is placentation. Placenta, just like in the human body, acts as an organ or the organ of connection between the mother and the fetus in the mother's womb. So it is a temporary organ. So after the baby is delivered, placenta is also extracted out. So similarly, in case of plants also, placenta is the tissue which acts as the connection between the ovary and the ovules, and placentation is the arrangement of ovules in the ovary. How ovules are arranged inside the ovary chamber. The ovary chamber is also termed as locule, and the ovary can contain one locule or many locules. This is known as multilocules or monolocules. So therefore, depending on the species, we'll now see what can be the different types of placentation. So first, let's understand the arrangement of the ovules inside the ovary. So ovules will be attached to this tissue called placenta through a stalk called the funiculus. Just like we have got the umbilical cord, so funiculus is the cord which connects the ovule to the placenta tissue. Here you can see the ovarian wall is there, and the chamber in which the ovules reside, it is known as the locule or the ovary chamber. So now let's have a look into different types of placentation. Firstly, we have got marginal placentation. In this, the ovules lie against a single margin. You can see a single margin is there, and these are all the ovules, the seeds of the peas. They are nothing but the ovules only, because we know that after fertilization the ovules turn into the seeds. So therefore they lie on one side or along the margin. So this is known as marginal placentation, and it is very common in leguminous plants like peas, beans, etc. Now, axial placentation. So, axial placentation shows ovules on the central axis. So, this is the, if you see, so from the top or in the cross section, this is the central axis which will pass centrally through the fruit of the lemon or any other citrus fruit, and the ovary is multilocular. You can see here the membranes are there which divides the ovary chamber into many. So this is a multilocular or multi-chamber ovary, and in each chamber you will see that the ovules are situated, right? So ovules are attached to the central axis, and they are present in the multiple chambers in which the ovary is decided. Such type of arrangement is known as axial placentation. Then the parietal placentation. Here the arrangement will be as depicted in the image. The ovules will be present on the inner walls, but there will be no such membranes. As we have seen that no such membrane is there to divide it. So they are free. So they are attached to the placenta tissue on the inner walls of the ovary, but they are not present in different chambers because there are no such division of chamber in the ovary. Then the free central. So the free central represent exactly the arrangement of the axial placentation, but the difference is there. There is again no division of the ovary chamber, or the locule is one only and there is no division. So here also the central axis will be present and the ovules are attached to the central axis, right? So the central column and the central axis of the placenta, and the ovary is, as I told you, the unilocular. It is not divided into multiple chambers. And the basal placentation, here only one ovule will be present and it will be attached to the base of the ovary. So whenever we see a single ovule, that means a single seed attached to the base of the ovary, just like in sunflower, it is an example of basal placentation. Finally, we come to the topic of inflorescence. Inflorescence means the arrangement of flowers on the plant stem or branch. How the, just like the arrangement of ovules which we have discussed, the inflorescence then describes the arrangement of flowers on the stem or the floral stem, what we say. Now basically here two types of fluorescence we will study, that is cymose and racemose. So a flower cluster born in a definite pattern means a group of flowers, and the pattern or how the group is actually attached or they are arranged in the floral stalk, that is only what inflorescence means. So firstly, racemose or indeterminate. So indeterminate means there is no definite length of the floral stalk. So the main axis can continue to grow. There is no definite length of the floral stalk, and the flowers are arranged in the acropedal order, means at the as the stalk keeps on growing, new buds will keep on arising and new young flowers will keep on arising simultaneously. So there is no definite arrangement, and this no definite length, and this type of arrangement is advantageous for the purpose of getting long time production, because once the flowers which have grown, they will now get converted into fruits, but the young flowers will again get converted into fruits in the next harvesting season. So when you are about to get fruits or you want to harvest the crop for a longer duration of time, so you can go for this type of inflorescence, that is the racemose inflorescence. And the plants which have the racemose type of inflorescence include mustard, gulmohar. So this arrangement in which the younger flowers will keep on growing as the stem keeps on increasing in its length. So this is known as acropedal order. On the other hand, cymose flower formation, that is the determinate inflorescence, means the definite length of the flower stalk is determined by the growth of the main flower. So a single flower which will grow at the top of the main axis, and that is the end of the growth of the main axis. And here the flowers are arranged in basipetal order, means the flowers will not keep on growing. So from the top to the bottom, it will keep on grow at the definite length of the floral stalk. Examples include jasmine and hibiscus. So in this kind of floral arrangement, you will get the harvest at a short duration of time, because the new flowers cannot grow continuously because the floral stalk is limited. So for a shorter duration of time, you can get the harvest. So this is the arrangement. The racemose flower, here the arrangement is acropetal order, where the young flower keep on growing on the top and the old flower remains at the bottom. And on the other hand, the cymose inflorescence is here. The growth of the old flower stops the growth of the main axis, and the young flowers grow from the top to bottom fashion. That means in the basipetal form. So these are two types of inflorescence. And why we need to know about this inflorescence? Because it determines the flowering sequence, as I told you, either in acropetal or basipetal order, and also it will influence the pollination, seed dispersal and fruiting pattern. As I told you, what type of fruiting pattern you want from your crop, so accordingly you have to choose that type of crop. So for example, as I told, if you continuously want the crops for a longer duration of time to harvest them, you need to go for racemose inflorescence. And if you need them for a shorter duration and you have to change the crop type, you should go for cymose inflorescence. Then also for pollination purpose, the for racemose inflorescence, since the older flowers are present at the bottom, so the visibility of the flowers is actually affected by this inflorescence type. In case of cymose inflorescence, since the flower is major, the main flower which stops the growing axis, it is present at the top, it becomes more visible, and the younger flowers, they become visible later on. But in case of the racemose placentation, so sorry, racemose inflorescence, so the flower which is present at the bottom, it is not so conspicuous as compared to the cymose inflorescence, because the young flowers, they keep on growing at the top, and accordingly the pollination will be affected. So we need to understand the processes which are linked to this phenomenon which occur in the flower. So that's all from this chapter. Should you have any queries regarding all these phenomenon and the structures that we have discussed today, please get linked with us and follow us for more. Thank you so much for being with us. This is Shushmita ma'am for biology signing off for today.